Sicknesses sometimes come unannounced, but we need to prepare and ensure ourselves against those things. There are certain celebrations at home that may come little later, the education of your children or even the marriages. You cannot wait for that day, but you need to prepare now itself for all those things. We need to foresee what is the money that we needed, how much to save. This is the act of a wise person. We need to foresee and prepare ourselves. That is the first lesson that we need to learn. To foresee is to rule. The second lesson is this: the unpredictability of our life calls us to prepare perpetually. Life is very unpredictable. We don't know what is going to happen to us, especially in the matters of life and death. Death is certain, but the timing of death is not certain for us. We don't know when it is going to strike. Sometimes it may strike at one shot. We won't even have time to remember anything or to execute anything. But at other times, it may be preceded with a long illness. But one thing is certain, that death will come suddenly. And death is certain in our lives. Unpredictability in life calls for constant preparedness. There was a famous Jewish rabbi. He was teaching his students. And then he said like this to the students: "Turn to the Lord one day before your death," he said. That is the advice he gave to his disciples. Turn to the Lord one day before your death. And the disciples asked him, "How does one know when the timing of death is?" And then he replied, "Then turn to the Lord today, because tomorrow you may die. Let every day in your life be a returning to the Lord," he said. Very wise words. Turn to the Lord today, he said, because we don't know what is going to happen the next moment. We need to be prepared for the unpredictable times in our lives, especially death. The third lesson that we need to learn today is this: the best preparation in our lives as Christians to meet the second coming of Christ is the performance of our duties. Whatever duties we have in life, as father, as mother, or be as elders, we need to keep performing our duties. That is the best timing and best posture that God would like to see us. Not to be derelict in our duties, and at the last moment scamper here and there, and then go to the church, make confession, get our souls ready. That is not the way. The best way to be prepared is to perform our duties day in and day out. In that matter, God should find us wherever we are. If you are the mother of the family or anybody else in the family, if you are washing dishes, let the Lord meet you at that point when you are washing your dishes, or when you are cooking, or when you are working and earning for the family. When you are performing your duty faithfully, that is the best posture that we are called to be in. There's a very beautiful Negro spiritual song or poem. Very beautifully it illustrates. There's a king and a captain high. The slave sings like this: "There is a king and a captain high, who's coming by and by, and he will find me hoeing cotton when he comes." So this is a man, a slave who's working in the field, who's beating the cotton, working over there. And he says, "There's a king and a captain high who's coming by and by, and he will find me hoeing cotton when he comes. When he comes, when he comes. They will crown him, the saints and the angels, when he comes. They'll be shouting of hosannas. They'll be shouting of hosannas, and the king will find me among my cotton when he comes," he says. And the king will find me among my cotton when he comes. When Jesus comes the second time, he should find us doing our duties faithfully. That is the best posture that God should find us whenever He comes. And today's gospel talks about the second coming of Christ. How are we to prepare for the second coming? By performing our duties faithfully. That is the posture that God wills us and wants us to be found when He comes. The fourth lesson that we need to learn from today's parable is this: there are certain things in life that we cannot borrow. There are certain things in life that we cannot borrow. We cannot borrow virtues in our lives. We need to practice virtues in our lives. We cannot build up a relationship with God, and that cannot be borrowed. We need to build up our relationship. We cannot borrow relationship with God. We cannot live on the spiritual capital of our parents. Our parents may be saints, but just because they are saints, we will not be saved if we do not follow the path which they are advocating and which they are setting as examples. So therefore we cannot live on the spiritual capitals of our parents or our forefathers. We need to practice all these things for ourselves. And today's gospel reading we found the foolish virgins wanted to borrow, but they were not given because it was not there. Certain things in life we cannot borrow. Virtues, relationship with God, or even we cannot live on the spiritual capital of our elders and parents. We need to be in that line. We need to practice and perform these things. And therefore these are the 4 lessons, my dear brothers and sisters, that we need to learn. Very practical lessons that are meant for us. God should give us that oil that we may keep burning and bringing light to others. So as we participate in this Eucharist, my dear brothers and sisters, let us realize the importance of being prepared for the coming of the Lord whenever He may come. Whenever He may come. And always remember, perpetual preparedness is a price that we need to pay for paradise. Amen.